Hello, everyone. Welcome to Spiritual Spotlight series. Today, I am joined by Carrie Cardozo. She is a master psychic leader, master healer, author, podcast host, creator of the number one psychic development in the world, and she is the channel of Soul Theory. Thank you so much for coming to Spiritual Spotlight series today, Carrie. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So, you were born a psychic and you used your abilities as a child without realizing they were unique. When did you first understand that your experiences were different from those around you?
Yeah, so I actually didn't realize it. The first glimpse of it was in my late 20s. I was actually going through a divorce. I had three kids. I had had cancer and just things, I just needed a whole life change. And I was on the phone with my cousin at the time, who was my best friend. And I was really upset and disappointed in myself because I felt like I'd failed. I was, 27, 28 years old. I had three kids and I was like, God, and I'm already getting a divorce. And I said to her, but you know what? I don't understand why I'm so upset because we see the things that happen in our life. Like, I've already seen this. Like, I knew I was getting a divorce. And she was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, we see every major event in our life. Like, we see that. So I don't know why we're surprised at it. And she was like, we don't see every major event in our life. I'm like, yeah, like I saw my parents divorce. I saw my baby that I had. I saw when I got out of the limo. I remember the exact moment that I saw this marriage wasn't going to last to the end, and I was like, okay, that's fine. She was like, no, that's not normal. And so I kind of just blew it off and was like, okay, that's fine, whatever. I thought about it, but I was super busy. I was running a $16 million medical practice. I had three small kids going through a divorce, and I was just like, okay, I need to just focus on life. And about 5 years, 7 years later, about that, when I was 33, I don't know the math, my fiance actually passed away.
Sorry.
And in his passing, it was absolutely crystal clear that I was a psychic. I could see him, I could hear him, I was getting messages. I went to different mediums in the need to understand what happened to him and where he went. And every single time I went to a medium, they're like, you're the psychic. You're like the psychic. You know what you're doing. And so although I've been psychic my whole life, it took me to have this happen for me to recognize that the beings that I saw as a kid, the spirits that I always witnessed, not everybody else was seeing them, and they were real. They weren't just, my imagination type thing. So it did take till I was like 33 years old for me to actually be like, okay, yes, I'm psychic.
Love that. So, what challenges did you face in accepting and developing your gifts, and how did you overcome them?
So I actually had a lot of challenges because of the fact that the things that it didn't, my life, the way I did things didn't change drastically when I found out I was psychic because I realized like the way that I process the world, I was processing it as a psychic. Other people don't process it the same way I do.
Mm.
So when I look at somebody, I see their energetics. When I'm asked a question, I immediately see the answer to it. So even if I'm having a conversation with somebody, I'll ask them a question. I 9 times out of 10 see the answer before they answer me. And I've always done that. And so that part didn't change as much until I really started expanding my abilities. But what changed was the fact that now here I am trying to accept the fact that I am psychic after 33 years of not saying it. So during that time, I worked in the really strict business world. I'm talking bankers, accountants, lawyers, doctors,
Yeah.
investors. And I was like, and now you guys just want me to be like, and meaning guys, meaning my guides. I was like, you guys just want me to be like, I'm psychic? And these people are all just supposed to be like, oh yeah, Carrie's psychic. And that's normal. I was like, that is not normal. Like the way it happened, I was like, my fiance passed away. And now I'm like, I can see dead people. I'm like, I feel like a psycho. Like I feel crazy. And so that was really hard to go from to recognizing that, I used to be just this normal, random girl, and now all of a sudden I have these really cool psychic abilities. So that in itself was very hard for me to call myself a psychic. I also grew up in the 80s and 90s, and the psychics were very entertaining. They were for entertainment purposes. Some of them
Mm.
were frauds, some of them were fakes. And that's not the psychic stuff that I do. And it's not the energy I practice in. So even for me, hearing the word psychic, I was like, okay, it made me cringe at times. And so I had to work through that.
That's interesting. I would imagine you're probably referring to like Sylvia Brown, like when she was on
Yes.
Montel Williams,
Yes.
and
Yes.
her nails and her
Yes.
deep voice and yeah, I'm not gonna,
Yes.
and I find it so like interesting that you didn't resonate with the term psychic and now you've embodied and been you're now the psychic. So how
Yeah.
did you transition from kind of, you're right, there are all a lot of frauds, there's still a lot of frauds
Yeah.
today, into being like you're this you're really walking in and holding your truth very sacred.
Yeah. So it took no money coming in. So about 6 months after my fiance passed away, I lost my job. Something terrible happened at the offices. I ended up being fired. It
Oh my
wasn't my fault,
goodness.
but I ended up getting fired. And here I was, grieving the loss of my fiance, trying to raise these three children by myself. And now I had no job and no money coming in. And I went from a very high six-figure earner to no money.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm starting my own business. And by that time, I had done a lot of work. I was not healed by any means, but I really trusted my psychic abilities during that 6 months.
Yeah.
And my guides just kept saying, you have to start your own business. You have to start your own business. So I did. And I was like, I'm going to be a consultant, a business consultant. I can grow businesses. And they were like, no, you have to call yourself a psychic. Well, for about, I don't know, at least a year, maybe 18 months of time, I made no more than like 1,000 to two a month. And that was not every month.
Right.
And that did not. Luckily, I had a decent amount of savings when I lost my job, as well as, over six figures worth of available credit on credit cards. So
Yeah.
I was able to sustain myself. It got very bad and my accounts went into the negative and I couldn't pay a lot of my bills, but I made it through it. And the guide said to me, you will not make money till you call yourself a psychic. And I was like, this is
Wow.
crazy. So I had to do a lot of that internal work around my beliefs, around embodying who I was, around trusting that when I actually shared who I really was and what I could do, that it would be accepted. And the month that I started calling myself a psychic, and it wasn't that I wasn't doing it, I would just be like, I'm a business consultant. But my consulting would also consist of my psychic read.
Yeah.
So I wasn't advertising it. The month that I started, I made $10,000 that month and it's only grown since. So I was like, okay, there you go. And they said that until you start acknowledging who you are, you're out of alignment. You're not connected to the right energy. You're hiding. You're, in a sense, lying to people, not
Yeah.
maliciously. And so that really shifted. And they said that if when you start aligning and really getting your energetics in alignment with who you are and what you can do and how you're supposed to help people, everything will change. And it really did. And I will tell you, everybody was accepting of it. There's not a single person who was like, oh my God, I can't believe this, or you're crazy, or anything like that, at least not to my face. So it was a lot scarier in my head than
Yeah.
it was in real life once I just acknowledged and accepted who I was and what I could do.
I love that. So you work with high level leaders and professionals. What draws these individuals to seek out maybe your guidance?
That's a really great question. Actually, I just worked with a woman recently, very recently, within the last month, who is she's a billion-dollar entrepreneur. And I said that to her. I was like, what drew you to me? And because I'm always curious. And she said, it is the way you stand in your power and you own what you do, and it's different. And you look at business differently. She's like, you know what? I know the strategies. I know the numbers. I know my industry in and out. She's like, but you can see things that I can't see. You can see the things that maybe I'm not aware of because the numbers look really great, but the energy behind it, I can't see it, or the energy behind the person that they're investing with, or they're hiring, or they're partnering with, whatever it is, isn't who they say they are. And that could be detrimental to their business.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that draws people to me is I look at things from an energetic, from a fate versus destiny point, from what you're supposed to be doing, what's in alignment. And I also really look at how leaders can bring their own psychic abilities into their work. So almost every single person who's drawn to me, six figures, seven figures, no figures, they have psychic skills. And in working together, they start to realize and open and acknowledge and use what they are.
I love that. I love that so much. It's very interesting. It's like you're right. The energy that you carry and the vibration that you carry, people will resonate that with that. And it's like you kind of, it feels like you've always had kind of a no BS meter. So,
Yes.
and people probably appreciate that kind of candor from you because you're going to be authentic and you're honest and
Yeah.
bringing out their own innate abilities to be able to kind of feel like, I'm going to supercharge your intuition. Let me give you some tools.
Yeah. And one of the things, like one of my gifts, I have a lot of gifts. I have every psychic gift, but one of them is I can see the truth of a situation. So there's people's perspective and there's what people want and their ideas, but there's also a truth based on the
Yeah.
energetics that exist around it. And so being able to see that allows people to cut through that BS and to
Yeah.
cut through like, okay, I know I really want this to work, but if you're seeing the energetics that it's not going to, but there's something better, like here's a great example. I was working with a company and they were trying to negotiate a contract. And they were like, based on the numbers and what has happened to me before, I think we can get about $50,000. And I was like, absolutely not. Ask for 100. Ask for 100. She called me 2 days later. She's like, they gave me 100 without even balking at it. And I was like, yes, exactly. Cool. Now let's go do this, this, and this. So we can see
Yeah.
that other people can't see, and you can call people on it immediately and be like, no, you're just afraid, you're downplaying yourself, whatever it is, do
Yeah.
this, and that will shift everything.
I
Yeah.
love that. So you're known as a psychic, helping other psychics validate and expand their abilities. What do you think sets you apart in this field?
So one of the things that I have noticed, and it took me a little while of meeting psychics to really understand this, is it's twofold. For one, I have every psychic gift.
Yeah,
So
that's a big thing. Yeah.
yeah, I can do anything. And a lot of people are like, oh, I want that. But it is unique to me. I'm sure there are other people who have it, but it's part of my purpose here is to help people in whatever psychic industry they're in. So it doesn't matter what somebody is doing. I can see what they're supposed to be doing. I know how to do it and I can teach it to them. So it's not like I do everything like I can, but I don't promote those sessions. I use that array of gifts to
Mhm.
really teach others. And then the second layer of this, because I've worked with a lot of people who've been in the psychic industry for years. I'm talking, they've been in the psychic industry for as long as I am old. And what happened is that the old school psychics, they have done so much for us, paving our path forward, opening up even the acceptance of psychics,
Yes.
bringing it to the forefront. Amazing. But one of the things that sets them apart from what I teach, and I've helped a lot of it with it, is they don't truly read energetics, they're telephone.
Mm,
So what they do is they learn how to communicate with spirit, but they don't actually know what spirit they're communicating with. They don't know how to manage their own energy, check their energy, protect their energy, do due diligence with reading energetics. So that means if a spirit comes forward and starts saying, "Hey, I'm Jesus," and you're like, "No, you're not," because spirit can lie. So if you
absolutely.
read energetics, you know that. So a lot of the old school spirits, old school psychics don't know how to read energetics or handle their energy. This is why we get psychics and mediums who are um sick or worn out, or
Mm,
psychics who can only do like 3 sessions a day and then they're exhausted, or they feel like they attract energy vampires, all those kinds of things. It's because they don't understand energetics or how to use them. So, the level at which I understand and work with energetics, I teach a lot of very, very well known and very great psychics how to help themselves even more with understanding the energetics behind everything they do.
that is so important. I really respect the fact that you brought up how there are individuals in the spirituality realm, healers, psychics, mediums that do get burnt out because they're not managing the energetics. They're not protecting themselves. They're just open channels. They don't know what's coming through. And it's like they tap out. Like,
Yeah.
and you see a lot of healers now, and I'm not sure if you've noticed this, we're in 2025 as we're recording this. There's a lot of healers that have really phased out of the industry because
Yeah.
they've become so burnt out. And
Yeah.
you have the ability to read energy and with almost 100% accuracy, which is a remarkable. Can you
Mhm.
maybe describe what reading energy feels like to you?
Yeah. Yeah. So when I read energy, so everything has a vibration, every single thing, whether we're talking about like a can of Olipop or a crystal or a notebook, a book, a light, anything. And when you can actually tap into the frequency of energetics, it's just a language. So when you can tap into it, you understand the truth of everything. So if you were to read the energetics of this can, you would know exactly what it is because you're reading the energetics. It's a signature of what it is. So, like the word fear has a very specific frequency to it. Whether you say fear, or it's deep fear or light fear, it's still it has a signature to it.
Yeah.
Like if you were reading the word cat, no matter what language you read it in, it still means cat. So when you actually learn how to read energetics, you get all the information around whatever it is that you're reading with crystal clear clarity. Like, here's an example. I was working with my master psychics right now. I give them a name of an individual. I'm being nice and I'm giving them the last name as well. So I'll give them the name Carrie Cardozo and I say, read their soul blueprint. Tell me everything you can read about them. That's all they get. They get no picture. They don't get an age. They don't get a date of birth, where they live. And my psychics are trained to be able to take that name, project that energy around that name, as well as expand it out to the past, to the future, to any potentials that exist, to what the soul is here. They can do all of that simply by reading energetics. Now, you can do it by asking a guide, but there's a lot of times that, you'll talk to a being that's maybe not true. So that energetics, it can't lie to you.
Yeah.
So a being could say, like I said before, a being could say, I'm Jesus, but the vibration of Jesus is very specific. So if that vibration doesn't match, you're not actually channeling with Jesus.
I love that. And I find that fascinating that you're giving your students a name and they're able to kind
Yeah.
of pull out that energy system. And it's almost like what you said in the beginning, that you would much rather read the true energy of the situation rather than playing telephone. Like,
Yes.
and I like that you're kind of like you're going direct to the energetic source and
Yeah.
kind of cutting out the middleman of, you know, another being, I would so to
Yeah.
say. That's
Well, even when
fascinating.
I channel with, like, I can do mediumship. So if I channel with someone's departed loved one, I'll communicate what they're saying, but I'm also reading their energetics around them. If I'm connecting with a guide or connecting with even universal energy, we're reading the energetics as well as the listening. So we're doing it twofold. And when you read energetics, it's a feeling, it's a knowing. You can actually hear the energy. If you can hear, you can hear the energy. If you're a seer, you can see the energy, but you're communicating directly with that source versus with a guide that's the in between the sources.
Wow. So you activate psychic abilities in others with a 100% success rate. What does this activation process involve and how does it impact those who experience it?
Yeah. So when I believe that everybody's psychic, I also believe that the future is psychic. So the more that you're able to understand and read energy, the more clarity you're going to have around things that are happening in life. And as the energy of the universe is raising, like everyone talks about, we're going into 5D, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff, which I don't talk about that because I just don't agree with what they're saying. But the universal energy is rising in order for us to continue to expand our consciousness. As it rises, energy is going to be more prevalent in our life. So everybody has a connection to energy. What happens is our thoughts, our beliefs, our opinions, the way we were raised, our fears, any traumas clog those filters. So
Mm,
think of like a funnel. And in that funnel, you put all this other garbage, but you want the flow of water to go through. It's going to pick up dirt and residue and leaves and grass and pull that through with it. All that residue is your human mixed in with it. And that blocks you from being a channel, from getting the information. So the first thing is we really work on clearing people's channels, teaching them to get out of their head, to drop into that consciousness space. Then we work on raising their vibration, because whatever vibration you resonate at and you vibrate at on a regular basis, that is the level at which you can communicate at.
mm,
So somebody who is very angry, maybe even just grief stricken, you don't have to be angry. Lower vibrational frequencies will never be able to channel with a high vibrational being. That means they're not communicating with source. They're not communicating with archangels. They're not communicating with Jesus or whatever, because their vibrations don't match unless whatever being you're communicating with is altering their energetics to match you. So
mm.
I teach people how to raise their vibration, and I do this through me supporting their vibration. So I can take anybody. I do it with my children. My children are all psychic. I taught them. I do it with any client, and I'll take their energy and I work with energy. So I will wrap their energy with an energy, not mine, but with the energy I'm using, and I will raise their vibration and I will take them in, and they can hear their guides immediately within seconds.
I love
And
that.
so they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. So then by doing this over and over and over again and giving them tools to do it, they learn to hold their energy up, and eventually they raise their vibration so that they have this clear channel and this direct connection with whatever it is that they're looking to connect with, whether it's energetics or simply like the energy of something, or whether it's guides or source or whatever it is. And then we do a lot of practicing. Like when I tell you, I stretch my clients clients, and I will sit there and say, channel on this, tell me what this is, what's the vibration of this, and I will correct people and tell them how to actually get it right. Because everybody channels differently. So I can see how you connect with energy, I can see what you're doing, and I help you to alter what you're doing so you get more and more accurate in the way that you're supposed to channel. So we do a lot of hands-on and a lot of practicals. It's not just watch this module, learn how to do it, go practice it. I'm just one of those, like, I have a really big respect for the work that I do. And if someone's going to go out in the world and be like, Carrie taught me, if you are not accurate, I do not want you to say that I taught you. So I spend a lot of time with my psychics to make sure they are the best psychics out there.
Love that. I respect that so much because we're in a world of digital, education,
Yeah.
and I can very easily go on Udemy and get a psychic course and then
Yeah.
call myself a psychic. And I really respect the fact that no, if you're going to put your name on it, you're going to have the skills to back it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so
Yep. And
important.
like my daughter is in naturopathic school. And recently I sent her like a screenshot. You could buy a naturopathic program for $199. You know what I mean? We're paying thousands a
Exactly.
year for
Exactly.
this. It's like you can find a course for anything. It doesn't
You
mean you're
can.
actually that, you know?
Exactly. Like I
Yeah.
think of like herbalism. Like if I
Yeah.
want to like become an herbalist,
Yeah.
I can either like take a $10 course or I can invest thousands into
Yeah.
like Rosemary's course in Vermont. Like
Right.
you want to learn from, I mean, especially because you're the psychic. And I love the fact that, you're going to integrate your tools and abilities in with your clients so that when they go out into the world, practicing with, they're practicing with high integrity,
Yeah.
like, and they have a moral compass, because
Yeah.
sometimes, and I'm sure that people are vulnerable when they're coming to you for maybe energy healing or counseling, or it's not counseling, but you are,
Yeah.
and in
Oh
essence
yeah.
it is counseling, it
Yeah.
is.
It is. Yeah. I worked with a psychotherapist recently for about 18 months.
Oh,
Amazing woman. She owns her own clinic. And she said to me, I have never worked with somebody who goes as deep as you do. She's like, in all the schooling that I had, I am a doctor. She's like, nobody touches the work that you do with healing wise. So yeah, it is.
it is.
And and I do that with all of my clients
Yeah,
because otherwise that stuff gets in the way.
it
And we
does.
don't want it to get in the way. Yeah.
Got to weed through it. So
Yes.
you've helped clients heal from illnesses and release deep-seated blocks. What role does energy healing maybe play in physical and emotional well-being?
Yeah. So I came up with this and I don't look at anybody's stuff. I've never been taught by anybody else. So I'm not saying this is just strictly my stuff,
Yeah.
but I have a practice that we do healing work. And when I work with anybody regarding healing, whether it's I do medical intuition as well. So we're people with cancer, autoimmune disorders. I've healed all of those plus blindness, a bunch of things. One of the things that we do is we focus on the five aspects of the human. So you can't just do energy work. That will not work because otherwise it's just forcing something to be a certain way, but then the path or the habits or the life of the person will rewire that energetic. So if I do energy work on you, but you don't change the rest of these five aspects, it will just go back because of the fact that my energy work isn't going to overpower your free will. So when we're doing healing, we look at the mental aspect. So all the thoughts and beliefs that people have, we look at the emotions, all the emotions that they're holding, even unrecognized emotions. We look at the physical body and to the health and what's it's actually affecting, as well as the action somebody's taking in their life. So their physical life, their environment, how they're showing up, that kind of stuff. We look at the spiritual aspect of a human, which is past life, soul recognition, blueprint, lessons, potentials that exist. So it's all the soul, the inner aspects, inner shadows of people. And then we look at the actual energetics. So these are the pure energetics that run through your system, run through your meridians, your chakras, your auric field, energy body, all of that. And we heal whatever it is that we're focusing on, we heal it on all of these levels. So if you have like a woman in one of my classes today was saying that her hand was free, like stiffening up, freezing. So there is a mental thought that goes with it. There's an emotion associated. There's the physical thing is the
Yeah.
hand freezing. There's a spiritual thing and an energetic thing. We touch on all of those in order to completely heal.
Yeah.
So we do
That's,
that across the board whenever we're healing anything. Otherwise, we're just putting a band-aid on the situation or it will represent itself because you didn't heal on one of those levels.
yeah. Wow, I love that. So, in your experience, what are maybe some of the most common energetic blocks that people carry, and how can they begin to clear them?
Cool. This is a great question, actually. One of the things that I see that almost everybody in the entire world is working through, there's a couple things, but especially if you're a psychic or energy worker, anything like that is trust. Trust,
Mm,
trust, trust. So as the psychic, we don't, a lot of the times we get information that isn't provable in that moment. You have to trust. As just in the world that we live in today, there we are being asked to make a lot of our own decisions. Like not technically, like maybe the government's not asking you to make your own decisions, but we're being asked spiritual beings to make our own decisions. In order to do that, we have to trust ourselves. So trust is a huge one. And we don't trust ourselves because of the way that we're raised or the way that they teach us to learn or gather information. It takes us out of our own trust. The second
yeah.
is power. We are really being asked to look at our own personal power, not ego-filled power, but personal power where we're really stepping forward. We're allowing people to see who we really are. There's a lot of, especially in the feminine energy aspect. So a lot of women have a very hard time getting into that feminine energy, into that flow, into that receiving. There was a huge period of time where women were asked to step in like men were. And it's hard, it's challenging, and it does wreck your system. Like I've been a single mom for a very long time and I own companies. So I'm a CEO, I'm a single mom, and I have to really like get myself to like
Yeah.
release, get into flow, and to get back into the receiving just because of the world that we live in and because of what we've been taught and because of my life situation. So that's another thing is really getting back into what I call your divine essence, which
Mm,
everyone has. It's that core essence of who you are, whether it's more masculine or more feminine, whether it is, a healer or a psychic or a strategist, whatever it is. We are being asked to really align with who we truly are. And a lot of our experiences throughout life take us away from that. It
yeah.
really it conditions us to be a certain way, to act a certain way. So part of our journey here, especially at this time, is to really own that personal power, that self of who we are, and to trust so that we lead from authenticity and from alignment with our truth.
Oh, I love that so much. So you have created the number one psychic development community in the world. What inspired you to build this space and what makes it unique?
So, one of the things that I've seen, I experienced myself, and actually, I was talking with a woman yesterday who started in the psychic industry in the 80s, and I was just like blown away. She's one of the pioneers. And one of the things that she said, which I experienced, is it was very lonely when I learned that I was psychic. Because back then in her time, it wasn't widely accepted. And it wasn't like everybody, there was no Facebook, there was no, Instagram where
Yeah.
people were sharing. But even when I opened my psychic abilities and really stepped in 11 years ago, I was in this space of like I felt very alone. I didn't know who to turn to. I didn't know what to do. There aren't as many books and the books are people's channeled guidance. It's not tried and true necessarily. And I never found a mentor, and not for not trying, but it's part of my journey is to not have a mentor. I am totally self-taught, totally with my guides connected. But every single psychic who comes to me says, it's really lonely out there. I don't know who to go to. I don't know who to trust. I don't know what to learn. I don't know how to learn it. I don't know how to do this work, but I really want to. And I was like, you know what? I know not everyone can afford my big investment courses, but if I put together a community where psychics, for one, can interact with each other, and it's not just psychics, it's energy worker, it's anyone on a soul journey
Yeah.
really connected, because if you're on a soul journey working to connect to your soul, you have to open your psychic abilities because your soul is an energetic aspect of you. So if you're connecting with your soul, you absolutely start to open your psychic abilities. It's just how it works. So it's for anyone in that space. And I really put together spaces so you can have community, you can learn, you can continue to grow. There's meditations, and there's also places to grow your psychic abilities, but also grow your business. Because I have seen time and time again, my business is incredibly successful, multi seven figures. But that is very unusual in the psychic and healing industry. For some reason, psychics and healers hold this servitude energy where it's just, I serve, 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 and they don't receive well. So my community has 4 areas. One is just the collective for us all to get together. I do energy readings in it. One is called alignment, where we really do a lot of soul work and energy healing. The third is the psychic school, where you learn about energy, how to work with it, as well as your psychic gifts. And the fourth area is business related. So it's manifesting, it's structure of businesses, It's how to grow your business. And this way, psychics have, at a lower investment rate, they have everything they need to really step into their purpose of being a psychic in this world today.
I love that you also provide business strategy because
Mhm.
you're right. It's, when you've worked with people in the past and they're trying to help you develop your abilities, and then you're like, but what about the business aspect of it? And they kind of get stuck there themselves. And it's like, well, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and that's so true. And there is a really like I remember when I entered the psychic world as a coach and I was a business psychic when I first entered, and then I realized I'm supposed to teach people how to do this as well. It was crazy because on one level you have the people who are like just focus and use energy and you don't have to worry about strategy. And I'm like, oh my God, I came from like developing businesses. And I'm like,
Right.
what do you mean? Like you have to have strategy. You have to have it. And then there's this other world that's like only strategy. Your intuition will lead you astray. And we really needed to bring them
Yeah.
together. And you have to use both. And I always say, check the energetics first, then put it in strategy. Like, if your strategy is not working, look at it, channel on it, and then re-strategize. You have
Yes.
to bring the two together.
You
Uh,
have to.
yeah. And it would, a lot of psychics will sit around and wait. Sit around and wait for that information to come in, sit around and wait for the sign, just, God will bring me what I need kind of thing. And that's not how it is, especially in today's day and age. It's about
Mm-mm.
standing in your power. You have much more free will than we've ever had in our spiritual journeys, in life after life after life, which means that God's not just going to make it happen for you. You
Right.
have to make it happen. You have your free will.
All I have in my head is like somebody knock on the door, like, all right, you ready to open your business? Like, that's
Right.
not going
Yeah.
to happen.
Yeah. Like even my story where I was like, can you just help me to make money? And my guides are like, sure, call yourself a psychic. And I was like, no, can you just help me to make, and they were adamant. They were like, and it's not like they waved a magic wand. And as soon
Right.
as
You had to put in the work.
yeah, I had to, as soon as I call myself a psychic, people are like, oh my God, what do you do? Then I had to put together a program and an offer
Right.
for them to actually buy, and I had to show up and I had to get through my fears and I had to do a lot of internal work. It
Yeah.
wasn't just this magic wand, but it was the key that got me into the right energetics.
Yeah. So you've dedicated your life to shifting the way the world views psychics and
Yeah.
healers. What changes would you like to see in how society perceives this work?
So one of the things that I really want to see is that psychics are accepted as much as like, and I say this loosely because I know a lot of people don't like doctors and lawyers and all those other kinds of okay, so I recognize that. Okay. But the work that we do can be so profound and we have this connection to source and to energetics and to the other side that many people don't have. And
Mm,
the value of that is immense. So in the past, like we spoke about before, psychics were used for entertainment purposes. They swindled people. Like you
yeah.
still hear today that a psychic is like, "Oh, you have an entity on you. Pay me $2,000 and I'll
You want to
clear
remove
it."
this curse?
Yeah, it's things like that. So I would love to see the respect and the integrity brought into the psychic world, but it comes from both aspects. It comes
Mm,
from psychics showing up a different way and, leading from the truth, leading
yeah.
from the heart space while still getting paid, we're still getting paid, but being honest and having this an immense level of integrity, but then the other side really seeing that and respecting us and welcoming us
Mm,
into that world where we can really make a change so that it's not a taboo thing. Like even to this day, I have people that are like, well, that's devil's work. And I'm like, okay, not really, but so it's
same.
really about seeing that it's not devil's work. It's not witchery. And even if it is witchery, it's not bad, like really just understanding every aspect of it. Because it could change everybody's life. There's not an area of life or a person that psychic gifts can't benefit them. Now, they can also do really harmful things if you have
Mm,
a psychic who isn't using integrity. So I'm well aware of that.
yeah.
But if we start training psychics and, some of the other days, like not the TikTok psychics, and they're right, like people
It's
will
true.
get cards and then they're like, I'm a psychic and you're not. I'm sorry, but you're not. You have to be able to read past that astral plane. Like you have to be able to get into the higher levels. The other side, you have to be able to really connect. But if we can get people, psychics, to up level their game and to do the work that's needed for other people to really accept us and see us the way that it is, we can blend these two worlds and magic really does get to happen. People can live fuller lives, healthier lives, more aligned, more connected, just more fulfilling. And I
Yeah.
really think it can help people. mentally, emotionally, physically, and purpose-wise in this world.
Absolutely. Before I ask your last question, if anyone is interested in learning more, I know you have masterminds, you have classes, you offer a lot of services. Where is the best place for someone to go to?
So on every platform, you can find me at Carrie Cardozo. I have carriecardozo.com. I also have my own podcast, which I always forget to mention when I
Yes,
talk.
please mention it.
I always forget until you said it at the beginning. You were like, you can share your podcast. So I have a podcast called The Psychic Within. I share a lot of psychic stuff. I just started doing some interviews on it. So it's on
Nice.
YouTube and on the podcast. So if you just search Carrie Cardozo, like I even met with somebody yesterday for my other business. She's like, I spelled your name wrong. So I just kind of searched you. She's like, you're a psychic. And like all this information came up. She's like, it was easy like to find you. So if you just search Carrie Cardozo, I will pop up on
You will
everything.
pop up. You
Yeah.
will pop up. I will say I had the strangest thing in preparing for her interview that I couldn't find the emails. And I'm like, okay, well, I know her from Facebook, so I can find her and get the information I need. So it was very weird. I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I'll find you.
Yeah. Yeah, if you just search, I've been in magazines. I have
Yeah.
a book, a best-selling book. Like it will just pop up.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. So, for someone that is just starting on their spiritual journey, what is one simple yet powerful practice they can begin today to strengthen maybe their intuition and connection to their higher self?
Okay. The most important thing that I teach all my psychics, no matter what level, and we always go back to it, is getting out of your mind, getting out of your head. It is so profound. The things that I talked about, where I raise your vibration, I help you to heal, all that kind of stuff, is super important. But if you can get out of your headspace, out of that logical, out of that information that you know, out of the questions and the trying to figure things out, drop into your midline, like your heart space, and just sit there, information will start to pop in. And it is one of the most profound things is sitting in this space of just nothingness, just being. And every single time your mind starts chattering, say, thank you, I accept that, but please turn off at this time and drop your attention back down to your heart space. And when I say attention, like your focus, literally like in your mind's eye or in your own feeling, I know everyone can't see in their minds. So take your fingers and follow your fingers down your face to your heart space, put your hands here and bring your attention down to where your hands are. You can't be in two places at once. So your attention can't be on your hands and in your head.
Yeah.
And we do not channel through our brains. So you do not use your mind to channel. So if you can practice that, staying out of the mind and into the body and into this heart space where the seat of the soul is, you're going to start connecting to your soul, your intuition, and your psychic abilities can absolutely start opening.
I love that advice. Carrie, thank you so much for coming on the Spiritual Spotlight
Thank
series.
you.
It's truly been amazing to connect with you today.
Yeah, this has been amazing. Thank you so much.